Okay, we are at chapter 3, ecosystem. What are they and how do they work? Just remember, chapter 3 is still in the category of science and ecological principles and sustainability, very basic knowledge about ecosystem. This chapter would have a core case study of tropical rainforests and then 5 little sections. So a couple of the facts about tropical rainforests you needed to know. So number 1, the tropical rainforests is disappearing. And then number 2, the size of the tropical rainforests is only about 2% of the Earth's land surface. Number 3 is tropical rainforests contain about 50% of the world's known terrestrial plant and animal species. And then you also needed to know the effect about the disappearing of tropical rainforests. Since we live so far away, why do we care about that? So the major harmful effects of disruption of tropical rainforests are, number 1, this reduces biodiversity. Number 2, this accelerates global warming. And then number 3, this changes regional weather patterns. This diagram or this satellite photo shows you the change of the size of a tropical rainforest. If you look at the left one, which is about totally covered with green, and then about 30 years later, majority, half about, would be used for something else. Section 1. First major concept is the 4 major components of the Earth's life support systems are atmosphere, air, the hydrosphere, water, the geosphere, rock, soil, and sediment, and the biosphere, living things. The second concept, life is sustained by the flow of energy from the sun through the biosphere, the cycling of nutrients with the biosphere, and gravity. First, let's look at atmosphere. So the atmosphere can be divided into several layers. There are 4 of them, but here we only discuss 2 of them. Those 2 are close to Earth's surface. So the first one, close to the Earth's surface, is called the troposphere, where weather happens, has the air we breathe, which is about 78% nitrogen and 21% of oxygen. So all the other gases, vapors, only contains within 1%. So after you pass through troposphere, the next layer is called the stratosphere. Stratosphere contains the ozone layer, filtering about 95% UV radiation for us. And then hydrosphere, all water, water vapor, liquid water, ice, and then permafrost. For geosphere, the solid earth. Biosphere includes all life, living things. So this diagram just showed you for the earth, you see the hydrosphere, you see atmosphere, you see geosphere, and then the biosphere are the living things in those 3 spheres. You needed to know the 3 factors sustain life on Earth. Number 1 is energy. Number 2, cycling of nutrients. And then number 3, gravity. So for energy particularly, this one is a one-way flow of high-quality energy. It starts from sun, pass to plants, and then other living things, and then back to the environment as heat, and then gradually radiation to space. We will see next slide more about the greenhouse effect. And then we have a limited amount of matter on Earth. So the nutrients are cycled through atmosphere. Obviously, gravity holds the atmosphere close to us. Otherwise, we have nothing to breathe in. So greenhouse effect, probably you have heard many times, but we would have a quick review here. So the solar energy that powers the Earth's climate system is short wave radiation. Remember, short wave radiation. So roughly about half of the incoming solar radiation is absorbed by the Earth's surface. Some of the incoming solar energy is reflected by the Earth's surface and atmosphere back out to space. And then the solar radiation absorbed by the Earth's surface is converted to heat and emitted as long wave radiation. So long wave radiation is about heat, infrared. So some of the infrared radiation escapes into space, but most of it is absorbed by greenhouse gases and clouds in the Earth's atmosphere. And this interaction between gases and radiation warms the Earth's lower atmosphere and surface. So this one is called greenhouse effect. The second part is some organisms produces the nutrients they need. Others get their nutrients by consuming other organisms. Some cycle nutrients back to producers by decomposing the wastes and remains of organisms. So the ecosystem, the ecology, science of organisms' interactions with each other and with their non-living environmental components. And the ecologists study interactions within and among organisms, populations, communities, ecosystems, and biosphere. So we are going to quickly look through the level of organization in the living things. So you start with the atom, the smallest unit of chemical elements that exhibit their chemical properties. Then atoms form a molecule, chemical combination of two or more atoms of the same or different elements. And then molecules form cells, the fundamental structural and functional unit of life. Then it's organisms. Those are individual living beings. And then a group of individuals of the same species living in the particular place called a population. You need to know the definition of population. And then the populations of different species living in a particular place and potentially interact with each other are called a community. And then when a community of different species interact with one another and with their non-living environment of matter and energy, this is ecosystem. And then all the ecosystem together would form the highest level biosphere. So this one is a diagram, shows you the components of an ecosystem. You need to be familiar with the term biotic and abiotic components, okay? And then first look at the feeding level. Feeding level is also called trophic levels. So when you see those words in multiple choice question, you would understand what trophic levels mean. So producers are also called autotrophs. Most of the producers do photosynthesis, use carbon dioxide, water, and sunlight to produce glucose and oxygen. So one part which is not in our book you need to know is that the efficiency of a plant converting light energy to chemical energy through photosynthesis. So the efficiency is only 1%, meaning only 1% of the solar energy rich plants is used to convert energy in glucose. Okay. And then consumers are called heterotrophs. So one thing I want you to consider is, can you think of any other producers which do not use sunlight? Think about the autotrophs in the deep sea. So there's no sunlight, but they have to use other source to make their own food and then supply food to other living things in the ecosystem. So just remember, the producers are autotrophs, and not all of them do photosynthesis. Okay. Also, one common mistake is that people think the oxygen produced through photosynthesis coming from the oxygen inside of the carbon dioxide. So I cite a research paper here to show you the oxygen actually is coming from the oxygen in the water molecule. So when you speak about photosynthesis, please speak in an accurate way. And then consumers are also called heterotrophs. They have different names. One is primary consumers. They also called herbivores. You can have secondary consumers. You can have tertiary consumers. And then carnivores or omnivores. Nevertheless, they are heterotroph. So those are the producers doing photosynthesis. Remember, you have autotrophs which do not use photosynthesis, okay? And then those are consumers. This is not my favorite picture. And then decomposers. So they are consumers that release nutrients in the soil, water, and air for reuse by producers. So the typical examples are bacteria and fungi. And then detritivores. Those they feed on dead bodies of other organisms. Examples are earthworms, some insects, and vultures. So earthworms are detritivores, actually are not decomposers. But many of you in your nature observation lab, you mentioned earthworms are decomposers. So accurately speaking, they are detritivores. There is very little waste of nutrients in nature. So nature handled them very well. So decomposers, detritivores. So this is another picture to show in this. And then for other organisms, the heterotroph, how do they get energy? So they do aerobic respiration, using oxygen to turn glucose back to carbon dioxide and water. And then you need to remember, for anaerobic respiration, they are also called fermentation. Their end products are carbon compounds, such as methane or acetic acid. Please remember, for anaerobic respiration, they do not produce carbon dioxide. The end products can be methane or acetic acid. So this one is a diagram to show how solar energy is transferred into chemical energy through photosynthesis and then passed on to other ecosystems. Okay, I will stop here and then watch next video, please. Thank you.